The human mind. 600 miles of synaptic fiber, 5.5 ounces of cranial fluid, 1,500 grams of complex neural matter. A 3-pound pile of dreams.
The human mind is complex and seemingly boundless. Whenever a piece of media focuses on what goes on inside of a mind, the creative possibilities are endless. Dealing with the brain also opens up the topic of mental health. The Psychonauts series is all about this kind of subject matter. Today I'd like to talk about how it deals with it and also why you should totally give these games a try. Welcome to Games for Healing, the web series where we look at video games that deal with themes of mental health, life lessons, and life struggles. The first Psychonauts game was deemed a commercial failure after it came out on consoles in 2005. Most of the people who actually did play it had a major appreciation for it, a cult classic for sure. Thanks to the game becoming widely available on PC, being cheaper to purchase than it was before, and word of mouth, it finally got what it deserved years later. The game sold much better than it did previously. Popularity skyrocketed. Fans wanted a sequel, which would have finally happened 20 years later with the release of Psychonauts 2. In between releases, there was a VR game called Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin, which I never played because it requires a VR headset. Story-wise, it can easily be skipped. The Psychonauts are an international task force of psychic spies. They use their powers to enter people's minds and battle the inner demons within. The goal is never to change or alter a person into something new. That's considered unethical. The goal is to work with what's already there as they try to do some healing. Rasputin Aquato is our protagonist. This 10-year-old boy is a psychic and hails from the circus. His family has shunned all things psychic related due to the bloodline being cursed by a psychic. This leaves Raz heavily repressed and unable to pursue his abilities and interests. Eventually, he runs away to Whispering Rock Summer Camp, a place where psychonauts train psychic children so that they too can become psychonauts one day. In the sequel, Raz finally gets to join the organization he's been fanboying over all these years, albeit as an intern. You've got to start somewhere. Psychonauts 1 and 2 are 3D platforming games with some elements of adventure games sprinkled in. They're some of the most charming games I've played in recent years, with a great sense of humor and absolutely brimming with soul. The voice acting is top-notch. The character designs are unconventional and weird in the best way, especially in the first game where every character looks like a lovable freak. The levels are some of the most creative I've ever seen in the platforming genre. There's plenty of janky gameplay issues that bugged me along the way, but they were more than made up for by all the creativity and personality on display. I'd recommend beating these games but not 100%ing them. 100%ing them is just tedious, but I went ahead and I did it anyway. Let's get into how this series deals with the mind and mental health. First, let's look at the tone of the games. Both have a strong focus on comedy. The first one is much funnier than the second due to its humor having a sharper edge and a more cynical feel. Characters' dilemmas aren't treated super seriously and are fairly exaggerated, yet they're handled with care, and the characters are also memorable and likable that you never feel like anything is at anybody's expense. Exploring the minds of these characters is a lot like stepping into their shoes. You get to learn more about them and why they are the way they are. The second game not only improves on the first's visuals and gameplay, but also on its treatment of mental health. Both games walk a tightrope between comedy and serious issues, but this one does it with far more grace. Psychonauts 2 begins with a disclaimer with trigger warnings and the claim that at its heart, Psychonauts is about empathy and healing. It just happens to be full of fun and silliness at the same time. Next, let's take a look at the neat ways that the series contextualizes its gameplay elements. Your health in these games is literally called your mental health, taking the form of brains, much like how the Zelda series uses hearts. Running out of mental health while in another person's mind won't kill you. It'll just break the psychic connection and boot you out of the brain. You never die in mines, but it's rumored that if you are actually outright killed in a mine, you pee your pants in real life. Enemies and bosses are mostly based around the issues that the host of the level has. These fellows are called censors. Censors attack anything in the psyche that doesn't belong. They're essentially the mind's immune system. They take the form of sniveling little businessmen, likely a jab at people who censor art in the name of appealing to broader demographics to make more money. They really like saying the word no. Bad ideas are an enemy that throw exploding light bulbs at you. This is because bad ideas can blow up in your face. Doubts are enemies that slow you down with their sticky purple goo. This is because doubt slows you down. Enablers are enemies that can shield other enemies from damage. You have to take them out first. Enablers in real life support negative thoughts and actions through toxic positivity. Personal demons act much like bad ideas. They can also blow up in your face if you let them get to you. Regrets are enemies that carry heavy objects which they try to drop on you. This is because regrets only weigh you down. Judges are literally judges and represent the mind's host's self-judging tendencies. Bad moods are the physical representation of, well, bad moods. The only way to defeat them is by looking at things from their point of view and finding their source. The source is a heart locked in a cage. These are all just regular enemies that can be found in most levels of the games. The bosses are much more involved in each individual's trauma. There's a bunch of collectibles in each level called emotional baggage. You literally go around sorting people's emotional baggage. You can hear the bags crying from a distance. To sort them, you'll have to find their tags. Figments are the most common type of collectible. They're everywhere, with hundreds of them to collect. These figments of imagination are little doodles that help tell the stories of each character. Figments not only add extra set dressing, but they'll help you rank up as well. Each mind will have mental vaults for you to find and open that contain a little slideshow giving you more on a character's past. These are often things they'd rather not remember or have other people see, hence why they've locked these memories in vaults. The designs of each level and its characters are chock full of metaphors and wordplay regarding their plights. I considered talking about every mind in Psychonauts 1 and 2 in detail, but I'm trying to avoid spoiling too much, and that would just be a full Psychonauts story and lore video essentially. We'd be here for hours. I'll just talk about a few levels and then do a lightning round of some others. My favorite level in the whole series is Psy-King Sensorium. It's all about things like the 5 senses, sensory overload, and panic attacks. It could also be viewed as being about synesthesia. The level is a treat for the senses with how gorgeous the colors and music are. This mine belongs to a guy whose brain has been without his body for 20 years laying dormant. Once you place his brain in a new body and enter it, he has to slowly readjust to having senses while also gaining back his memories and identity. As he readjusts, he has reoccurring panic attacks. This takes the form of a new enemy, which is of course called a panic attack. I love this enemy's design, and I love how its goal is to overwhelm you. It moves super quickly. It can create clones of itself to psych you out. It can throw a bunch of projectiles at once. The best way to deal with it is to use a new psychic ability taught to you by the owner of the brain, the ability to slow down time. Once you slow this enemy down, it becomes much easier to deal with. Countering a panic attack by slowing things down just to breathe and assess the situation feels incredibly appropriate. Bob's Bottles is a level all about a sweet old man who likes gardening, except he's been consumed by alcoholism and has cut himself off from the world and his loved ones. This takes the form of an ocean with multiple islands. Bob has secluded himself on an island with an empty garden. You have to enter the giant bottles in the ocean to learn more about his memories and why he needed these bottles of alcohol in the first place. Each bottle represents a different tragedy in his life that left him cut off from a loved one. Inside each, you'll find a seed. When you plant these seeds, they grow into plants that have the faces of Bob's loved ones. It's all just a metaphor of how it's important to nurture and cultivate your relationships as if they're all plants in a garden. Mia's Dance Party is a level from the first game. Here, Psychonaut Mia Vodello invites campers into her mind where she can teach them how to use the levitation ability. This is a very healthy mind full of joy and grooviness, lots of celebrating life through dancing. Mia clearly has herself under control. She's a very strong and motherly figure. If you stray away from the dance party, you can find a room that feels a bit out of place. This room is full of children's toys and contains a memory vault. The slideshow within this vault shows us that Mia was once a caretaker at an orphanage. One day while getting groceries, something happened that caused the orphanage to burn down. Mia arrived on the scene too late, only to hear the screams of the children burning alive thanks to her telepathy. If you jump into the toy box in the secret room, you'll be in a new area surrounded by locked up enemies called nightmares. You fight nightmares in another character's mind, but in Mia's mind, they're barricaded and harmless. These nightmares all have the voices of the deceased children, begging Mia for help and exclaiming that they're burning. Mia says to Raz, "Luckily for you, I have my nightmares under control." Mia's mind is a good example that we can learn to live with our trauma and our difficult pasts. We can't erase them, but we can keep them in check in a safe place in our minds. We can keep them from growing and overwhelming us. Mia doesn't let this room of nightmares affect the rest of her headspace. She keeps the nightmares in their own compartment where she can keep them under control. We're all capable of healing and moving forward. We just have to learn to live with things. Let's do a rapid fire round of other levels without going into too much detail. Compton's Cook-Off is a level about anxiety, self-judgment, and codependence. Sasha's Shooting Gallery could be interpreted as Sasha having OCD or some sort of emotional repression. The Milkman Conspiracy level could be about schizophrenia. It's the fan favorite level of the series, the most disorderly mind you'll visit. Cassie's Collection is a level about Jungian archetypes. The Gloria's Theater level is about a woman with childhood trauma who some fans believe has bipolar disorder. Hollis's Hot Streak is about gambling addictions. The character Ford Cruller is coded as having dissociative identity disorder, and going into more detail would be major spoilers. Coach Oleander probably has PTSD, and not for the reasons you'd think initially. That's not even all of the levels, but I hope that hearing these concepts has piqued your interest. I'm really glad that I played the Psychonauts games. Not only are they fun to play, but they're also very deep and thought-provoking. They deal with mature subject matter in an endearing way. The series creates comedy with mental illness without punching down on people with mental illness, while also retaining some seriousness. These characters are designed to be empathized with and loved, not to be belittled or treated as bad. I certainly grew to love these characters whose minds we have to explore. I felt for them and I wanted to learn more about their lives. Feel free to tell me your favorite minds in the games and how you interpret them all. I'm also glad that the original game eventually got the attention it deserved and paved the way for sequels. Here's hoping that we can get more psychedelic adventures in the form of Psychonauts 3. The concept of exploring the human mind is vast, and the Double Fine development team has only scratched the surface. Do yourself a favor and go play a rad video game today. Until next time, I'll see you later. Stay strong out there.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious.